Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of At the Movies with William Fletcher. As per usual, I am your host, William Fletcher, and this week I'm joined by two guests this time. First, we've got Barney.
Hello, hello.
And George.
I think I've been brought on as Tom Cruise expert for this film, so
Yeah, we'll get into that in a minute. So, for this week, we will be covering the Tom Cruise-led film Collateral, which, I guess before we start discussing the film in depth, how did you guys, had you heard of it before this? How did you come across it, I guess?
This was definitely something that I was aware of as, a Tom Cruise film, and a Jamie Foxx film. But I watched it specifically for this podcast, so this was my first time, being fully exposed to it.
Mm. And George?
I I'd seen it before this. I watched it for the first time earlier this year, and yeah, I really liked it, and I still really like it after that. So yeah.
Yeah. I heard about this from a YouTuber by the name of Chris Stuckman, who did a...
I know
of course.
him.
Yeah. And he did, I think it was one of his Blu-ray collections he did, and he went, where he talks about all his films, and Collateral was one of those. And I think he mentioned it in a couple other videos of, how they do action and stuff. And I thought, that sounds interesting, and so I watched it a few years ago. I don't remember, 2018, 2019, and I really enjoyed it then, and I rewatched it a couple weeks ago, and I still really like it. I still think it's holds up really well, and so I'll probably be I think I'll be very positive, at least, about the film.
I am as well, yeah. It's it's in my top 50 films. I really like it.
I guess that means I have to be the negative one, which is a shame because I don't really want to, because I do quite like this film.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I guess we're all kind of coming to it from a place of, liking it, at least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, do either of you guys want to? Because since you're the guests, do either of you have a specific place you want to start with the film?
Well, if we could kind of start from the beginning and work our way through, that might be helpful because I need to decode some of my notes.
Yeah, yeah. I've got notes, and I do notes chronologically as I'm watching it. It's usually if it's something I've seen before, I can pause it and and I notice stuff more. So
yeah.
So
yeah, I think chronologically, through the film would work best.
Yeah. Sounds good. Do either of you want to start, or do you want me to start?
Yeah, my first note came.
The host.
We're all being polite.
Barney, you had a note since you've seen it most recently. I guess you can. What was your first note you made?
So my first note is fairly short, but it's Jason Statham ? I had no idea he was in this. He's not in it a lot. He shows up and then he's gone again.
That is literally my first note as well. I just wrote Jason Statham cameo at the beginning. That's all I wrote. Because I didn't...
Yeah, he shows up, drops a bag, and then he's gone.
Yeah. And,
it's weird. Was he just not really known at the time? Or
I'm trying to think...
He'd done Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels and Snatch at this point.
And I think he would have done The Transporter, at least the first one at this point, too, which was, a big hit because he made a sequel from it. It was just really weird to have, this big actor sort of...
Yeah.
cameoing... right at the
beginning. Maybe that's what it was.
Yeah,
exactly. He just shows up, but he drops a bag and speaks, and Jason Statham speak, and then I thought, is he going to show up later in the film? Is he a big part of this? And he's not. He's It's an oddly small role for such a big name at the time.
Yeah, yeah. That is fair, because he
Yeah.
was, even at that point, relatively well known amongst people. Like,
Well, yeah,
now, of
he's
course.
not, he's not like Jason Statham, the man nowadays, but he was still kind of like, oh, that's that guy from, all those Guy Ritchie films.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just very weird and kind of inexplicable. Like, oh, that's weird, and then he's just not in it again. It's really weird.
Yeah, because he's kind of like, huh. And then at the end of the film, when I look back at my notes, I was like, yeah, Jason Statham was in this.
Yeah.
That for quite a few people, but I guess we'll
Yeah.
get onto that more as we
Yeah.
go.
Yeah, there's a lot of well-known people in this, but we will get onto them in a minute. So, Tom Cruise is introduced straight up because he is arguably the main character. Like, I would argue. Well, I mean, he's kind of like a double, like, main character.
I was going to say, I think this is, a kind of a lead sort of thing.
Yeah, it's like two leads.
Yeah.
Because it's sort of.
Though,
Sorry, you're saying?
I was going to say, if I had to plant my flag in who I thought was the lead, I'd say Jamie Foxx. But maybe maybe that's because I'm kind of looking at it from the point of view as he's the protagonist and Tom Cruise is the villain, and I might not have thought villains can be heroes, which obviously they can. But
yeah, no, I'd agree. Jamie Foxx is it's basically a duel, two leads, but
it's fairly 50.
If I had to one, it would be Jamie Foxx, I think.
Yeah, it's like equal amounts of both their characters. There's scenes, with just Tom Cruise by himself, and then Jamie Foxx by himself, and then a lot of stuff of them together. But the Oscars,
I guess my the Oscars, they were just like, nope, Jamie Foxx.
Jamie Foxx is supporting, and I'm like, I don't think he is.
Yeah,
this was
completely nonsense. Yeah,
this was the year to be Jamie Foxx because he got lead actor nomination as well for and win for, Ray, I think it was, where he played Ray Charles.
Yeah.
I guess they didn't want to give him two nods in the same category.
I'm not sure if you. Well, actually, I guess it depends. Because I know there's some way, like, you can't get nominated. I don't think you can get like two lead nominations or two supporting. It's like one. You can get both.
Yeah, one of each, but never two or more of each.
So I guess that makes sense, and it's nice that he was recognized for his performance because I think Jamie Foxx is really good in it.
Yeah, my next note is that Jamie Foxx is just kind of effortlessly charismatic in everything he does, and this is no exception.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, I agree.
Very, because it is kind of weird though, because you see in a lot of stuff Jamie Foxx is just like really cool and stuff, and in this he's not quite that. At like the beginning, he's sort of just like a bit of submissive.
Yeah, he's just a taxi driver.
Yeah, he's just a taxi driver. But as it continues, he sort of becomes on level with Tom Cruise, and then eventually surpasses him.
Yeah.
Spoilers ahead. I should just say that now. We're gonna get into spoilers. I assume. I feel like
that was me
thinking. But
that was me thinking the podcast was like, we watched Collateral. I thought it was good. Goodbye.
Yeah. I don't feel like I need to say it anymore. I've done enough where we just talk about everything, so it should be fine.
Yeah.
So
it's like over 15 years old. So
exactly. It's like it's a relatively old film, Like in 3 years it'll be 20 years old. Like,
this film is as old as I am.
Really? Goodness.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, I was born the year before it came out, so I'm slightly older, but not by much.
I was born in 2004.
Ah. Yeah.
So I guess Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
Think of him. It's not necessarily in this film, but in general, how do we feel about him?
I think he's a pretty good actor in what I've seen him in. I haven't seen like all his stuff, but what I've seen him in, I quite like. I don't think he's a bad actor.
I've come to realize. I saw George about this before. He's I'm burping. He's done some bad stuff at times. I don't think he's ever been atrociously, awful in them.
Yeah.
And I've come to realize quite recently, having seen quite a few films that he's been in, lots of level that George has. But I've come to realize that I do quite like Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
I think if you kind of separate, the sort of person that he was around this time, look at just the performance, I think there is a lot to enjoy there.
Yeah. I think sort of whether you like him as a person or not, I sort of think you have to kind of admit he is a good actor though. Like he's
Yeah,
good
you
at
got to
what he
separate
does.
the artist from his art. Yeah.
And to be fair, he doesn't seem like he's a massively
Yeah.
bad person. From what, like, he seems like he's at least, he seems like a cool guy who just believes in some things. He
Weird
shouldn't
stuff.
believe in.
Yeah.
Weird stuff.
Nowadays, he seems like a perfectly alright guy. I guess
Yeah.
as he's gotten older, he has matured.
Yeah, and apparently he
Yeah.
is moving
It was-
away.
I think it was just this like mid 2000s period.
Yeah, and apparently he is like moving away from the group because of some of their beliefs, which, you know, good for him. That
Oh,
he's,
Oh,
yeah, about COVID and stuff and sort of their stance on the whole
It's-
thing.
it's finally gotten weird for him.
Yeah, but at least he's admitting that, like, oh, this is a bit much even for me, you know. And I respect
Yeah.
that he's willing to say
Exactly.
no.
yeah.
But like, because George, you've seen all of Tom Cruise's films, all his feature films.
Every
Man.
feature film, yeah. Yeah.
And sort of,
This is, I'd say this is one of his best performances. I'd say. My favorite performance of it is probably Eyes Wide Shut. But yeah, I think this is one of his best performances. And just in general as an actor, I think he's, while I think some of his films are atrocious,
yeah,
he's always
he's always good
Pretty-
in them.
pretty good to great.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's just the film
And-
around him isn't necessarily
Yeah.
as good as he is. Yeah. There's some other actors who I would say are
Yeah.
sort of like that. Like they're good in everything. It's just not everything they're in is good. You know?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's. I've got a question for George. Does the quality of Tom Cruise's haircuts correlate with the quality of the film?
Not usually, because his best hair is in Mission Impossible 2, which is not one of his best films. So, but
Oh goodness.
I'd say it contributes, but it's not the deciding factor in the quality. of
It
the
gets 1 point in your overall rating. If he's got a good haircut,
Yeah,
boom,
yeah.
brownie points.
Yeah.
film.
And
I mean, I'm not sure at all what I feel about his hair in this. To be honest,
It's weird, isn't
Yeah,
it?
he doesn't look right with grey hair. It's sort of, I feel
Yeah.
like even when
No.
he's like much older, he'll still have like whatever his what is it? Is it like it's like a brown or is it black?
Like yeah, brunette, I think.
Yeah, but like very dark.
it's like dark
Yeah.
brown. Yeah.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah,
I still
actually,
feel
no,
like
I
he'll
think
have
that might have been what it was.
Yeah, I feel like he'll just have that forever. Like when he's in his 70s. he'll
Yeah,
In a wheelchair, he's still got a full head of
Yeah.
dark brown hair.
Still doing stunts, but in a wheelchair. Oh, he would do it.
Oh, that would be brilliant.
Oh, that'd be so
Jumping across
he would.
rooftops. That'd be amazing.
That'd be so good. Speaking of stunts, because Tom Cruise is well known for his stunts, but there aren't a massive amount. Like it's just like sort of
Yeah.
typical like fight choreography. It's not anything like, you know, jumping out of a plane or anything. It's just,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
It's fairly kind of standard,
yeah,
stunt work.
like stuff that, you know,
But-
a lot of other actors would do.
There was a moment later on
Yeah.
that I did think, oh, that's a. We'll get to notes, but there was a moment that I did kind of jump out of me. It's been like, oh, that's a bit of a step up from the rest of this film has been in terms of
Yeah.
Tom Cruise stunting.
Yeah,
It's an odd moment as well, but
yeah. I'm
but
trying to think of something, but I can't. Nothing's coming to me at the moment. I'm sure we'll get.
oh
get
yeah,
there.
I'll get
I-
there because it's a,
I think I know what you're talking about, but we'll get to it later.
Yeah.
I guess another one of my notes here is that Tom Cruise also, effortlessly, charismatic and easy to watch,
Oh.
but also changes on a dime,
Oh,
kind of when
absolutely.
the plot really kicks in.
Absolutely. I think
Really well done bit.
Yeah. It's I don't know, something about Tom Cruise, just like the way he looks in this is just like cool. Like that's like the best way I could put it, that he just looks cool.
Yeah.
With the shades and the nice suit and,
Yeah.
and the hair and the briefcase. Like he just looks like, you have to, like, he looks like a cool guy, Like it's just, you can't deny it.
Of looking cool.
But he looks cool in everything. Well, mostly everything anyway.
I was gonna say, depending on haircut.
Of course, depending on haircut. Yeah. So we're introduced to him, and we're also introduced to the Jamie Foxx character. And so we get a little bit sort of establishing him and his life as a taxi driver. And I love how it sort of establishes that he's been doing this for a while without saying it to the audience.
Like, he knows like how long it takes to get from somewhere
knows, like,
to somewhere
the routes.
else.
He knows how long it takes to drive here. There's a bit where he's at like a gas station and he's like speaking, I think it's Spanish, to like the guy.
Spanish, yeah.
And like, again, that's something you only learn after doing this for like a long enough time, you know. And he's and it's just,
that's a very good point. I hadn't noticed that. I didn't pick up on him speaking Spanish, but yeah, you're right.
Yeah, because it's something that, because I have watched this film a few times before, and so this time I was really like looking at like, you know, subtleties that you wouldn't necessarily notice on the first time, and that was like one I picked. I was like, oh, he's speaking a different language, which like takes a long time to, like, I know it takes forever to learn a new language. And, so I assume, like, it depends on the language, of course, but Spanish seems, I mean, any new language is difficult to learn, no matter who you are. So anyway, and then he also looks at the picture that he's got as well, which that looks like a really nice
dreams.
place. Is Dream where he wants
Dream
to
Island.
eventually end up, but he just hasn't yet.
Yeah.
So, and then we meet a new character, Jada Pinkett Smith.
I was gonna say Will Smith's wife.
Will Smith's wife. Who were they married at the time? I'm not entirely sure.
I don't know. I only realized
they've been
like
together for a while at least. But I'm trying to think.
Oh yeah, they were married quite 1997. So
a few years before. Yeah, okay. So they would have been together like goodness, like 7 years.
7 years, yeah.
Goodness.
Yeah.
So I think I just sort of I'm gonna say sort of for a general point, I don't think there's a bad performance in the film. There's like better performances, but there's nothing awful.
And no one really jumps out as being like, oh no, what were they thinking casting them?
Yeah, exactly.
Bish, but
sort of all the roles.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. They also
everyone at the least kind of performs as well as you would want them to.
Yeah. It depends on the performance, of course. You need like, depending on who it is, they need to, be able to do all this. But for like other characters, they don't need to be doing as much.
Every performance is like at least a 7 out of 10, I think. Like
there's nothing bad. Which could happen, in a film with like a very big cast and lots of characters. Any performance could, not be as good, but that doesn't really, you don't really have that in this.
Yeah.
I think Jada Pinkett Smith and Jamie Foxx, they have a really, they've got really strong chemistry, in this. This is like only scene they have in the first, like 2/3 of the film or something. It left an impact.
Yeah. I really like that sort of introduction, like the first time they're meeting and they sort of make that bet on she wants to go one way and he's like, oh no, but you should go this way, and then they sort of place a bet, I guess, on who will win and the results of said bet.
Is he allowed to do that? Do you think you can just say, oh yeah, if you're wrong, free ride, whatever?
I guess it depends. I mean, because he's been there for what, 12 years it was? Or something like that, yeah. I feel like at that point, they know him well enough that they're like, he can do what he wants. He wants to give away a free ride, who cares? He drives enough people anyway. We'll give him just one.
Yeah.
A thing I noticed about this scene that I hadn't noticed before is when they are talking, there's a bit where she pushes like her hair behind her ear, which is like a very well-known example of like attraction or interest to someone.
I noticed that as well, and I don't know what. Yeah, that kind of jumped out as me as well as being.
I was like, I somehow missed that before, but because it's not like it's clunky, but it's like not too subtle that you don't notice, but it doesn't feel like forced or anything. It just feels sort of like it's just.
It's not like she like dramatically raises her hand up and like brushes it through her hair. It's just kind of a
It's just like
Yeah, yeah.
how it would be in real life. I assume, just casually just does
yeah.
it. Like,
I don't have enough hair to do that.
yeah, exactly. And I don't think any girl I know is interested in me to do it anyway. So who knows? Like, because it's a common. and I did.
Those ones are rare.
Yeah, I just had to do it, and because I heard about it, that sort of thing before, and I was like from something else. I'm like, is that an actual thing? And then I looked it up. Like, oh, it is a real thing. Like, it's not just like this thing for this show for this one situation. It's like a thing that
I was going to say it was Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Yeah, that's where I got it from. I'm like,
yeah, that's it. That's what made me think of it.
Yeah, I was like, oh, so it's like it's in multiple things. It's not just in this one show for a joke. It's like it's a thing that people do.
Yeah.
Like the Three Fingers thing in the Inglourious Bastards.
Oh,
I've never seen it done anywhere else.
Oh, that is a proper German thing, actually.
Yeah, exactly.
But you just don't see it anywhere because it's such a rare thing that it barely comes
Such a specific cultural difference. Exactly.
And it doesn't work.
There's only so many situations that you can be in where you need to gesture three with your fingers.
Oh yeah, that wouldn't work. And so
back to the film.
Yes.
Something I want to mention is the film, like the way it's shot. It feels very cinematic, but the image quality, it felt very, I don't know, like grainy. I don't think that's quite the right word, but
it is very great.
frame rates felt jumped out at me, at least, as being a bit. It's not something that's not usually.
Yeah, I didn't really.
It would have made me think.
I think that's a very
TV.
I didn't really notice it as much, but maybe because I was watching it on like a streaming service, and so maybe the image quality is different or something. But like, I assume because it's a relative, like it's 2004, like 20 years ago. So I mean, I guess it depends, of course. That could be a like stylistic decision, or it could just be that it's kind of.
I think it probably was a stylistic choice. I'm not quite sure why it would be that way, but I noticed it, and then I was once I was used to it, I didn't really kind of pay much attention to it.
That you notice at first, and you're like, but then you just sort of don't care. It's like a thing.
Kind of accept that it's there. Yeah,
it's fine.
It's just part of the film, isn't it?
So yeah. And I just this film is so well written. Like none of the dialogue or any foreshadowing dialogue feels like forced. And we'll get more into foreshadowing.
You're right.
But it really feels like this is just like a thing people would talk about. Like we'll get to it in a couple minutes. But it feels genuine and it feels like natural. Like it's not like just forcing people to talk.
It's very natural,
there's. I think what really helps that is that there's, someone will say something and then there's kind of like a little pause and it's not just like line, because then it would feel very unnatural.
Yeah, like an Aaron Sorkin type thing where it's just lines.
It's like quippy line, you say things in a cool way. I'm repeating myself. You're repeating yourself? No. Why would you repeat it? That sort of thing.
Yeah. But it feels like they feel like okay, they're taking time to process what was just said, and now they've got to respond.
I think this was a really good line between film, the way of speaking in film, getting cutting out the ums and ahs and stuff, but also it doesn't feel too scripted.
Yeah, it's like it's a perfect balance.
Yeah, I agree.
Scripting.
Definitely.
So actually, before we continue. This film was directed by Michael Mann, who also directed Heat about 9 years ago.
Yeah, 9 years. Yeah, 9 years. Something like that.
So, just sort of, what are you guys' opinions on Michael Mann's other work, if you have seen it? Because this is the only Michael Mann film.
I can't say that I've seen anything else he's done.
Oh, okay.
I've seen Manhunter, which he did.
Is that
which
the
I like quite a bit, although I need to revisit that.
Which one's that again? Is that the?
That's the first Hannibal movie. So before Sons of the Land.
Oh right, okay.
It was like Red Dragon, but Like it was like a prequel.
Yeah, Red Dragon is basically a remake of it. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think that was the
Yeah.
first Hannibal book. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's a pretty good film. Although I do prefer the Red Dragon remake.
I've seen neither.
And I have been meaning to see Heat, but I haven't
Heat is
yet.
one of those like they're like everyone's like, oh, this is like the perfect like heist. This is like a perfect version of a heist.
You know, De Niro, Pacino, you know,
Yeah, exactly.
Quinting, all that.
Yeah. And this film was written by Stuart Beattie, who apparently worked on the story for the first Pirates of the Caribbean film. And a couple other things that are not that important. I just thought I should mention that because this is very.
That doesn't matter. He made this. He's fine.
It's very like I sort of guess that leads to the point of like it's very well made, like directed and written. Like as you were mentioning, the dialogue feels very like it's like a perfect mix of like movie dialogue, but also just like natural dialogue that people would say. Like it feels like this is a conversation people would have.
This is how people talk.
Yeah, and I think some films can very much films can really sort of go too far in either direction. They could sort of cross either line.
Yeah,
and
it's
be too
a balance that
is, like because like there's two ends of the spectrum, and then there's like the middle, which is like where you want a script to be.
Where you want to be, yeah.
In regards to dialogue.
Yeah. There's stuff like what you mentioned a few minutes ago, like Aaron Sorkin stuff. That's very sort of scripted. I do like that kind of stuff, but I also do like what they do in Collateral, which is like a more balanced sort of thing.
Oh yeah, I like Aaron Sorkin too. I was just making a point that his dialogue feels like a bit too much into like no one.
It's very
actually
stylized.
Like yeah, it's something he's good at, but it just is But nobody actually talks like this.
No one talks that way. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, he could write film dialogue.
Yeah.
But it's not like natural dialogue.
It's not. Yeah, he couldn't. If you asked him to write a conversation of just like two real people, he would go into like those ways of making them
people saying the same thing over and over again, but in different ways.
Yeah, and so back to the film. So then he was right. So basically, he predicts that if they go one way, it'll get them there faster. And she's like, "Oh, you should go this way," and he is correct because he knows, he knows it so well that he knows that he will obviously be correct. He still gives her the free fare anyway.
Yeah.
Just there was no point in the bet then because he just is like.
I was gonna say.
It's just like, oh, you got a free one anyway. And it's like, okay, there was no point then in making that bet if you was going to do it anyway. But all right, whatever.
World's worst gambler.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like, oh, I got a straight flush shower. Screw it, I'll give you the money anyway.
Oh god. And so just gives it, and then he also gives her his picture, which again is a bit like, okay, I don't know.
No, it was like, steady on, mate. This is like your dream island. Then you've
just met this woman, but you're already giving her gifts. like
12-minute cab ride, boom, that's all it takes.
Yeah.
Have my life dreams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, I get that, like, you're interested, but like, you don't just do that. Like, I know, you don't just go right for that. They'll do it,
My fairly limited knowledge of women, she says, I like your shirt. Don't give her your shirt,
Yeah, exactly. And so, anyway, then she gives him her number, which, that's fair enough. She's
like a nice guy.
She's interested, fair enough.
So she plays it on a normal level, unlike Jamie Foxx, who's just going in all guns blazing.
Yeah, she's just doing the natural thing that you would do. Like, oh, you seem nice. here's my number, and that's it. You don't give them something that you've had for like however many years he's had that photo for.
A sitcom, you know.
Yeah.
Fall in love. Here, have everything I
Yeah.
own.
Maybe he does that to everyone. He just has like a stack of those photos.
Doesn't matter. He just like every person's like, here you go. He just gives them all free fares. That's what it is.
Yeah, he doesn't work for a taxi service. He just drives around picking up strangers.
Yeah, and he's just doing a service to the community. He's doing and for free too. So it's even better. I mean, he's not
A
profiting.
nice guy.
Not profiting, but it doesn't matter because
He's being nice.
yeah.
That's why he hasn't been able to start his limo company yet.
Yeah, he just keeps giving away all the money. Oh goodness.
So I guess then she goes into her building. Tom Cruise leaves the
and
building.
another really good setup that I didn't notice the first time is that he sees her, and he like and he sees her.
Clocks that it's her, and he knows who
clocks that
she
it's her.
is.
Yeah, and so he knows
Well,
when to come
I
back
went
to her.
back and looked at this.
Yeah, and it's very subtle too. It's just like he turns his head slightly to look at her, and then he turns back, and that's all it is. It's nothing else. Nothing else is needed.
That's a really well done, just kind of bit, like you say, foreshadowing without feeling the need to, draw much attention to it. Because a lesser filmmaker would probably like have him stop, look over his shoulder, look puzzled or something, and then continue walking on his way. But
I mean, it is on an escalator,
it's
so
tough.
it's hard to tell. Like, you can't stop exactly. I mean, you can.
well, he just turns around, and starts walking back up the escalator as
Yeah.
it's going down.
Yeah. No, but it's really good. It's just like a very subtle notice, and then that's it. And you sort of forget about it too. Like, because that's
Exactly.
good.
Like, as far as we know at this point, it's just kind of like, oh, she's an attractive woman. He
just
has
looking...
a quick look, and then he goes on with his day. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It seems like just a thing that people would do. You just look at someone, and then you just look back, and then you just continue on. And that's, I think, the best way to do foreshadowing is to sort of have the audience forget that something's been like set up. And I think
good foreshadowing is when you don't even realize it's foreshadowing.
Yeah, and you only notice on
Yeah.
rewatches, like film twists, like the best plot twists are ones that you don't notice foreshadowing until you watch it again. And you're like,
Then it just changes everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then he leaves the building and gets a taxi, and Jamie Foxx nearly misses him. And how different would the story have been if it was...
I made a note here, whatever happens in this film, it so nearly could not have happened.
Exactly. And the crazy thing too is, it would have, would it have gone... I mean, it depends, of course, depending on the other taxi driver. But, all of this could have gone so much quicker. They wouldn't know about... the driver wouldn't know anything about what was going on. They'd just be dropping him off at his stops and then just going on their day.
And she would have died because she only survives because Jamie Foxx.
Yeah, exactly. She
had her number.
There's so much.
Oh yeah, no.
Another cab driver.
Yeah, exactly.
Chances are Vincent would have been able to, do what he had to do and then get back on his plane.
Yeah, exactly. It's so
Yeah.
Yeah. And I kind of like that sort of thing. I like where one slight difference would have changed the entire plot. All these.
It's like butterfly effect.
Yeah, exactly. All these things had to happen at this point with these people. Otherwise, the film doesn't work and it doesn't happen. So he drives him to his first place and he times him, and there's a sort of introductory dialogue because we haven't really had much Tom Cruise dialogue yet. He's had a couple lines when he's talking to Jason Statham, but other than that, he's just been silent for pretty much the whole film up to that point. He's just been the guy in the suit.
Yeah.
But he's a big deal and he's important to the story because you've seen him a lot at this point. So he's the other main.
A lot of attention's been drawn to him. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so they start talking in the cab about
how long it takes to get from. It's really nicely think Jamie Foxx and Tom Cruise, they bounce off each other really well, and it's kind of a shame that we don't get more of them just kind of being friendly towards each other.
Exactly. Because this is, all prior to everything kicking off. This is just, he just thinks this is a guy in a suit, he needs to make a few stops. Cool, he'll get paid. However much was he gonna get paid? Like, he's gonna pay him like $1,200. Like, he gave him half of the beginning.
600, I believe.
600. Yeah, and then he's gonna give him an extra however much at the end of it all. And
Yeah.
So then they just start, and they're talking about things. Tom Cruise brings up a line about the MTA and the train lines, and about a guy dies on it and nobody notices for 6 hours or so, something like that. Like, that's sort of what he says, to very clunkily quote it, and to
gets in the car, starts spouting some philosophy.
Yeah.
You do.
And he's not, like, because I haven't been to LA, right? That's the city they're in. Yeah. I don't know much about LA, but I assume for people who have been there, and I think I've heard stories of people who have been there, that it's pretty accurate, like, sort of how nightlife and all that is in LA, and how the film accurately portrays that.
Mm.
And
it would feel very odd if it was just kind of, streets are just empty.
Yeah, exactly. Like there are just people everywhere, And there's a scene that is coming up where I'll talk about that when we get to it. But there's a scene which if it had gone slightly differently, could have been a real, like, something really would have happened. But that is later on.
I think we're thinking of the same bit, but yeah. So then, they arrive at the place.
At the first place, and he just says, just wait down here. I'll be back in a few minutes. I've just got to deal with this thing, and because we as an audience don't know anything, we just sort of know that he's gonna got these errands, I think, as he puts it, and so we're just gonna, and we're with Jamie Foxx for most of this. We cut back and forth of just Cruise climbing stairs, but we're also with Jamie Foxx for a lot of it. I've just realized that we haven't been really referred to any characters by their names. We've just been using the actors' names.
Yeah, well, Jamie Foxx is Max and Chris is Vincent.
And Jada Pinkett Smith is Annie, I think, that's the
Annie, yeah.
And so we cut back and forth between Vincent and Max, and Max drives behind the building. Is there something I missed? Is there a reason he does that? Or
Tom Cruise just tells him to wait in the alley.
He tells him to wait around the back. Oh, that's right, yes. Yeah. And then a giant body falls on top of the car.
But he just falls out the window?
Yeah. And I'm just like,
I didn't think that, things would kick off this early on. I thought that, it would take a little bit longer. And the body's been thrown on the car, and I'm like, crap.
Yeah, I didn't think...
the first stop happened there.
I didn't... Because I sort of knew the plot that, like, Tom Cruise was playing this hitman, and Jamie Foxx was his cab driver, and they were doing all these things. They sort of a tumultuous relationship between the two. I did not expect to just start in, like, relatively early, like, 20... like.
Well, basically, the way I thought...
Also,
the way I thought it was going to go was, they do the first stop, Tom Cruise gets back in, he's a little bit as if he's been in a fight or something, and then they continue on the way, and then maybe at the second one, stuff would kick off. But no, it's like,
like he's just fixing he's like buttoning up his suit, he's, a little, his hair's like a little bit messed up or anything.
Yeah.
But there's nothing explicitly, and then the second time we see something.
Yeah. I don't, he's just, the body just gets booted out the window.
Yeah. And I love one of my favorite lines in this film is... Sorry, George, you were saying something?
Oh no, you go first.
One of my favorite lines in this film is, so Max says to Vincent, "You've killed him," and Vincent says, "No, I shot him. The bullets in the fall killed him." Like, that's just a really good line, and he's not wrong.
Little things like that.
It's just like such a good line, and it's such like he kind of is right, but he also kind of isn't. Because
At the same time, it's like, well, no.
but also
I was going to say,
the
Yeah, like,
bullets and the fall.
probably
Yes,
wouldn't
the
have fell
bullets
out the
killed
window
him,
if
but-
you didn't shoot him.
Yeah,
But yeah, the bullets would have pierced
yeah.
been shot if you
Yeah.
hadn't shot him. Yeah.
But that's just such a good line.
Yeah.
I just think it's just really good. I don't know.
It is a really good line. I do
It's
like
really
it.
good. Yeah.
It's just honestly, he would be the sort of person that gets all technical about that.
Yeah,
He'd
exactly.
be the sort of person that would sympathize with Jigsaw and be like, "Oh, well, no, he's not actually a killer." But
Tom Cruise or Vincent, or both.
Vincent,
Oh, okay.
Vincent, yeah, Vin. Yeah, no, yes, movie superstar Tom Cruise. No, 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 no. You know, you look carefully. Jigsaw, he didn't kill anyone.
Is this slander?
No,
Hit me,
no,
Tom Cruise.
Tom Cruise, nah, he seems like a
He seems like a reasonable guy.
Yeah. So, yeah, you just
Now that we've
got
cleared the
started.
name of Tom Cruise,
yeah. So, and it's like, and I like how Max immediately just tries to get out of it as best he can, and he thinks for like a brief second that he's going to, and then Vincent just tells him to get in the car, and it's like,
I
Yeah.
love that bit where he's like, hey, I'll wait, I'll just chill. He's like, you won't tell anyone? He's like, I promise. Like, get in the car.
it's so good because it's like he's like from Vincent's point of view, he can't risk that because like especially because he knows
Yeah,
what
exactly.
he looks like, so he can't risk. And especially because he's, a secret, like he's an assassin, he's secret too. Like people don't know what he looks like, until they meet him.
Say if his face is all over Los Angeles, then he can't go back there again.
Yeah, exactly. And it's probably screwed like other if he goes to other cities and states and whatever, it probably doesn't help either because he's probably a well-known figure, If they,
So yeah, people seem to know who he is. Yeah,
yeah.
a fair bit of street cred.
And so
Yeah.
they, and so they dump the body in the boot of the car, and they just pour water on it.
Oh, yeah, something.
Sorry, yes.
Something about the body. I like how they hide the body like early on, like in the back of the car, but
Yeah.
it's you almost by the time it gets brought up again near the end when the car crashes, you almost forget about it by then. So it's like a surprise to you and the cop, if that makes sense. Like
Yeah. I sort of understand what you mean because it's it's brought up in one scene, but other than that, it's just sort of left, like it's in one bit.
Yeah.
But that's it, and the rest of the film is just a body in the back of this car. And
We're just just
yeah.
going with it. That's just
Yeah.
the situation we're in.
Yeah, and I do like that how he's just like, yeah, well, it doesn't matter, like whether you like this or not, we are in this together now, and we have to keep going. And like he is right because they.
I
will
do love
keep
that.
going.
Yeah.
Like, because even because he is kind of an accomplice, because Max is somewhat of an accomplice at this point because he drove.
I was gonna
him
say he's
this
just driven
point.
an assassin to a guy's place and he's killed
and
him.
has partially, minutely,
Yeah.
but still somewhat caused his death because he took Vincent to where he was to kill him. So he can't stop now because he is involved in this. And
So I guess off they go.
yeah, and so then they just go on to the next place.
Are you pulled over by the cops at this point?
I think
so.
Yes, yeah, they are.
They are. Okay, have you made a note about that?
Yeah, my note here is I was really tense for this bit just because like I said before, there are a lot of people there. So if they
that was
get
my
out and they have to
thought.
kill the cops, they're gonna have to kill everyone else as well.
That's what I was thinking. I was like,
Yeah.
because it sort of seems like in your head, they're probably not going to, because you would think oh, I don't think they can. But watching it, you sort of don't really think about that until after it's done. You're like, oh, they are so close. Everything he's about to open it. He's gonna.
Yeah.
And as I was watching this, I was like, he's gonna have to shoot a lot of people to get out of this.
There's quite a few people
It's like-
milling around in the background.
Yeah, and he hops out
It
of the
reminded
car
me of
with the gun in his hand, he's ready to start shooting people. And I'm like, man, he just is ready. He doesn't care. if
He's
he
a
has
psychopath,
to, he
you
will.
know?
Yeah, if he has to, he will.
Yeah.
I mean, at least it shows that he's always prepared to do whatever he needs to do. Like, it's just gonna be, a lot harder to keep his identity secret if he has to kill a street load of people. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. George, you were saying
It
something?
reminded I don't know if yeah, all I was gonna say is it reminds me, I don't know if either of you have played Hitman, the game. I mean, it reminded me of like I'll be dragging your body
Oh,
in that, and then
I
there'll be
have
guards like
played.
coming around the corner,
Yeah, I've played
and like if
one of the
the
more
guards will
recent
see me,
ones.
they'd have to shoot like the whole thing up. Yeah.
Yeah, I've played. Yeah, I've played one of the recent ones, and I quite enjoyed it. I thought it was quite good. It's just and this is
Yeah,
sort
I
of
think
that.
it's one of my favorite games. So it's
Yeah, they're very solid. They're very good, solid games. And so then, yeah, so then they're able to just like barely in the nick of time evade. Well, the police get called away elsewhere to deal with another situation.
I want to
Yeah.
talk about that. Are they being called away to the place that they've just come from, or just somewhere else? As in where Vincent and Max have just come from, or is it just meant to be?
That's a good point. I don't know.
I don't think
It did occur. Now that I say that, I do think they've got the body in the trunk, so it's not like the body is still there with bullet holes in it. So
Yeah,
probably
yeah,
not.
because yeah. I think maybe it's one of those things that could be up to interpretation, perhaps. Like, are they getting called? Because I don't think we see those cops again, so because they're not main characters.
Yeah,
They're
no,
not
and I was looking for them when we go back to that first crime scene.
and you couldn't see them anywhere.
Yeah.
No, okay. Yeah,
I guess.
and so they continue on, and actually, I think we might have skipped over. There's a bit where Vincent is talking to Max about how he cares that this one fat guy is dead, but he doesn't care about all these like people, like all these kids who go hungry, all these like people in Rwanda who are killed, and it's like, yeah, it's a fair point that like like the way Tom Cruise is able, the Vincent character is able to make very good points, and sort of like you understand what he's saying and where he's coming from. Is like it's very well done.
But at the same time, shut the hell.
I think it is sort of like, but to be fair, those people who died don't affect him as much.
But yeah, exactly. This dead guy
fell on his car. Like his car is dented now, and it's got a broken window now, and it's like.
Obviously, he's going to be concerned about this guy.
Yeah, like if he knew people in Rwanda, I'm sure he'd be more concerned. But he, does because he says that he literally says, "I don't know people in Rwanda," or something like that. It's like, well, yeah, of course he doesn't care. He doesn't know people from there, so he's not invested. I guess.
Yeah, exactly. It's like body fall. He gets says, "Oh, those poor people in Rwanda." Like, obviously, no one's going to say that.
Yeah, it's like if that happened to me, and like. Yeah, like I'm more concerned about the person who has just died next to me as opposed to people like across the ocean dying, because it's like that isn't affecting me as much as this dead person is like right next to me. Like it's not the same thing necessarily. It is good dialogue, but it is just sort of like but also,
I think it's intentionally you're meant to be like, Vincent, what? What about, man?
It's not the same thing. Like if he had killed a bunch of Rwandans and Max didn't care, then that's a different story.
I was gonna say, that's a different. Yeah, that's a different ball game altogether.
Yeah, if a bunch of Rwandans fell on Max's car, and he didn't care, then we might have an issue.
I want to see that film where Vincent kills a bunch of they fall in his car and they have to like set them all up in the car to look like they're just asleep or something.
Yeah, just gotta.
He can Bernie's it. Some sunglasses on them and just put them.
Just make sure that it's like you can just see like only above the neck, and that's all. Like you can't see.
Yeah, boom.
They've got blankets over them. That's it. So, and then they continue on, and they go to the next place. and he zip ties Max to the car, so he can't drive away. Which, you know, is a good idea, but it also is sort of like, but would he though? Like, because what's he gonna do? He can't take this car back to the lot because they're gonna open it and find a dead body and be like,
find a body in it.
you know.
Yeah.
If anything, I mean, like it does, it's gonna make him want to try and escape more.
Yeah, exactly. And then he gets robbed by a bunch of interesting.
Annoy me a bit, although it did give me one of my favorite moments from the film.
Oh, I think I know what this is.
First thing, like, he does, I was like, yo, help me out, and then what are the chances that the guy that comes over to help him out is gonna mug him?
Yeah. And it's
I mean,
like,
it's LA. For all I know, the streets are crawling with criminals, but
I mean, there's like a lot of people in LA, so I assume some of them have got to be criminals.
I was gonna say, chances are.
Yeah, that's sort of a common like cliche, I guess. Like people, they think they found help, but in reality, they found people who are just gonna make their situation
worse. Yeah.
And so they steal his money, and they steal
Vincent's briefcase.
Getting to another one of my favorite lines.
We're gonna have the same one.
Where Vincent says, "Yo, homie, you got my briefcase?" And he's like, "You got my briefcase? Is that my brief?" He says something. You got my briefcase?
That's like, is that yeah?
And I'm just like,
did you just take my briefcase?
Something about Tom Cruise saying the word "homie" just is like, it's the most amazing thing.
Not just homie, yo homie.
Yo, yeah, exactly. It's such like a weird thing, and
it feels exactly like what it is. It feels like a white guy trying to be hip.
And I'm just wondering if that was scripted or Tom Cruise thought, you know what?
Tom Cruise just showed up. You know what this scene needs? Some proper street talk.
And Michael Mann was like, "Yeah, let's do that.
Yes.
That's good."
Yeah, Tom.
Like,
and just the way he says it, he's like, "Yo, homie."
Yeah, he doesn't. Yeah, he doesn't like pause or anything. He just says it like, sort of fast, like, and it's just like.
It's a really
something.
It's a nice moment. I know.
It's unintentionally funny, but it's also just like, kind of. One of my favorite bits in the film on it. Like, it's one of...
it's a strange moment, but I did love it. Just because it gave me what Tom Cruise would sound like if he said the words, yo, homie.
Yeah. And then he just walks over and he just shoots those people and then just, like, continues on.
Hops back in the car.
Yeah. And again, he's just so cool of how he just shoots them and he just picks up the briefcase and he walks back in the car and they go. Like... Oh, actually, well, they don't go.
Something, yeah.
I nearly forgot.
Yeah.
Max
boss.
Oh no, that's when the guy radios.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, Max's boss radios and talks with Max about the dented car and tells him that he's going to pay for it. And then Vincent is feeding him lines of telling him what to say to his boss. It's a really nice moment of like, because it's sort of like, I don't know if friends is the right word to describe the pair of them, but they've definitely got like something between the two of them.
I was gonna say there seems. Well, I think it might be a bit one way. You know, Vincent kind of. I mean, Vincent describes Max as his friend later on. Whether or not he actually means that, I don't know. But he certainly seems to like Vincent. To the extent that he keeps him around the whole night. Yeah,
exactly. They've got like something. It's tumultuous, but there is still a connection between the two, and they feel like genuine, because they feel like people who like know each other and know they're in this sort of situation, but they've got to keep sort of going with it.
In fact, that's what it is. They know they're kind of stuck with each other for them. You know, might as well try it along with it.
And I think they have, like, sort of in general, just sort of for films in general, like, just the chemistry is sort of some of the best chemistry between, like, two leading actors in a film.
It's really connected, just like, you know, bouncing off each other really well.
Have they ever acted in anything else together? Because I'm trying to think of
it. They have.
No.
George, you just watched all of Tom Cruise's movies, surely...
Oh, Jamie Foxx is in another one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm sure there's probably something.
nothing's jumping to mind, no, so I don't
Yeah.
think so.
Yeah. I mean, I think if there is anything, they're not like the main. They're not like the two leads to each other. They're like one of them is is like a small part. Maybe they're both small parts.
So have we been
Looking through Jamie
introduced
Foxx's filmography and nah, yeah.
Yeah.
at this point, have we been introduced to Mark Ruffalo yet?
That was the next note I made. My notes go yo homie, and then Mark Ruffalo is my next
Second
note.
Mark Ruffalo.
Yeah. Well, I said my next note is Mark
yeah.
Ruffalo with the slicked hair, goatee, and piercing looks weird. Because I'm just not used to Mark Ruffalo.
I'm not used to
Looking
him
like-
looking that. Yeah, exactly. I'm used to seeing him like kind of looking like a dad. You
Yeah,
know,
because his hair looks
Bruce
like
Banner.
yeah, like in what I've seen him in, his hair like is the same. It's never slicked. It's just sort of like the natural state and stuff like the Marvel movies, in Zodiac, in like Eternal Sunshine. Like the hair's all the same. So just seeing him with the slicked back hair, I think when I first watched this, it took me a second to realize it was him. I was like, wait, that's Mark Ruffalo. And plus,
Yeah, I had that moment too.
The facial hair and the piercing. It's like he doesn't usually have that in what I've seen him in. It's very interesting.
Yeah. Something that I can say that I've seen him do before, or I don't think he's done since this film.
Yeah.
It's what we're
Good
missing
reason.
from the MCU. Should have been in Thor Ragnarok.
Well, Hulk has that hair on the planet.
Yeah,
He's out of Hulk mode and he still has it.
Yeah, as the goatee. Piercing.
Oh, yeah, and in the state the Hulk's in now, where he's like the halfway point between the Hulk
Yeah.
and Bruce Banner, that's what he needs. Goatee and slick back hair.
Yeah. So, yeah, we meet Mark Ruffalo's character.
The Hulk grow facial hair.
I guess it depends. I mean, like sort of where he is now with the half. I mean, this is a tangent. I think he maybe could, depending on the version. But I think it would look weird. Because I think Mark Ruffalo looks weird with facial hair. Like, he doesn't... Well, I guess with this facial hair, with this goatee. Because he has...
Works well with like a full beard.
Yeah,
when
like I've
it's,
seen him in
parts
interviews
to it.
for stuff, and he's got like a proper beard. I'm like, oh, that doesn't look weird. It's like Chris Evans. Like Chris Evans, when he has like a beard, it's like, that's right. But if he only has like some of it, it's
It's
like
the mustache.
Yeah, that's weird.
America.
Yeah, Mark Ruffalo with this goatee looks weird. A decent before, like it's because he's not in it. He's also not in it, as much as other people are, but he's does well. And this is the first time he's played a detective, because he then did Zodiac, where he was also a police detective. I mean, he's a more...
Then I guess sort of again in Shutter Island.
I haven't seen that, but I know he's in that. And so, yeah.
Whenever they cut away to whatever Mark Ruffalo is, what's his name?
Fanning, yeah.
Like that. Whenever they cut away to him, I kind of lose interest a little bit more. I'm kind of more connected to Jamie Foxx, Tom Cruise, and I feel like it's...
that. The sort of...
I agree, yeah.
That's a fair point. And he's definitely one of the less interesting characters, like, because, but I think you sort of have that when you have, like, the two leads are these two very interesting, like, characters with very different ideologies, and they bounce off each other so well that when you just have a sort of like a less than that person, they sort of feel like a bit boring in comparison to have sort of just
maybe, but also I don't think he really kind of use.
Sorry, can you repeat that? Sorry, I cut out a little bit.
I don't think his character really contributes that much to the overall, plot of the film.
That's yeah. Now that you've mentioned that, he isn't really that necessary.
He interacts with Jamie Foxx, literally like one scene before, spoiler alert, Mark Ruffalo dies.
Yeah. I mean, he does sort of have some stuff to do with the other police officers, and sort of like he sort of explain. Well, he tries to. I mean, it doesn't work out actually. He's explaining and justifying that Jamie Foxx isn't Vincent. He's not the one they're after,
Oh yeah,
which we will get
I
to
guess so.
later. But
And
it's not
I did
much.
quite, yeah.
And I do like him in it. Like he's a good actor. Like I
But
like.
yeah, it's
Mark
nice having
Ruffalo.
that. I do like a good bit of Ruffalo.
But I think if
Yeah,
you
he's
change the
good.
script a little bit, you could just remove his character entirely.
Yeah.
Like I do understand
Yeah.
that point.
Coughing. Then yeah, we're back with Jamie Foxx, well, Vincent and Max,
Yeah. And
and Tom Cruise inadvertently goes on to quote a famous line from the B movie, like jazz.
Sorry, what?
At one point, he says, "You like jazz?"
Oh, is this? Oh, there's that. I didn't make notes for like every single scene. Is that the next scene where he's in the
I
jazz
didn't either.
club?
I think that's the next thing. Yeah,
I'll get up
like
the
a petrol.
plot just to make sure. But that I think that's probably close to one of the next scenes of the film.
Should
was
be.
This was before the B movie by a couple
Yeah,
years.
yeah, that's what I say. He accidentally goes on to quote what would be a famous.
Yeah, they were obviously very inspired.
Jerry Seinfeld. He watched this film and was like, "We need that."
Oh, sorry, we did skip over a scene. Oh, we did skip. Oh, did we skip? Wait, I'm just checking to make sure if we. Okay, no, we haven't skipped over a scene yet. Sorry, I was reading out a little. So the next scene. So after the second stop, and Vincent gets his briefcase back, says the word "homie" because he just can. They go to the the jazz club. Actually, one thing I want to bring up before we get to this jazz club, something that I don't know if you guys noticed, and I didn't notice until someone talked about it, that Vincent has a very specific shooting pattern that is brought up in the film, to be fair. Like 2 in the chest and 1 in the head is like the strategy he goes for. And if you notice, he does that in like every time he shoots someone, and it'll come back later on in the climax, and I'll bring it up then when we get to that point. And I just like that, he's so well trained that it's the same thing. He does the 2 shots to the chest and the 1 to the head. Like that's just
Yeah.
what he does.
Well, apparently, I'm no gun expert, but
I don't think any of us
apparently the
are.
gunplay in this movie is very realistic. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, apparently the gunplay in this is very realistic to how it actually is. So
I think in most films, at least like good films and well-made films, they usually try to be as accurate as they can, and like the actors practice with guns and stuff. Like Arnold Schwarzenegger did for the Terminator. He disassembled guns and he practiced with guns for months, so that by the time it came around, it would be like robotic and everything. And I think that.
I heard this is a bit of a tangent. I've heard a story. The show Spaced with Simon Pegg, Nick Frost, and all that.
yeah.
Great show.
So Nick Frost's character.
I think I know the story. Yeah.
Frost character has to know how to reassemble a gun. And so he took home this big prop gun of like a machine gun or whatever. But, yeah, he like blindfolds himself, puts it together with it on, takes the blindfold off, and there's an armed unit of police in his apartment. And he had to like phone up Simon Pegg and Edgar Wright and such, be like, guys, there's police in here.
Yeah. Wait, so actual police were
like an armed unit of police were like there, and basically apparently the police told him up when they had it all cleared it up that if Nick Frost moved his hands down instead of up, they would have shot him.
Oh my goodness! See, this is a problem that wouldn't happen in America. Like, because Tom Cruise would be practicing this stuff in America, they probably wouldn't care. Like, it's to bring it back. Like, it seems like that is in the UK, so it's different gun laws and everything. So, but in America,
everyone would be like, yeah, the police would be like, hey, sir, is that your gun? And he'd say, yeah. Awesome gun, man.
Yeah, it's like, ooh. What kind of shooting patterns do you do? Oh, 2 in the chest, 1 in the head. Nice.
It's nice.
Cool.
That's it.
And so then we go to the
Go to the jazz
club, yeah, and another really good scene.
Yeah, it is.
With,
Tom Cruise, he gets like the guy who's doing a trumpet solo or whatever.
Yeah, I think that's a trumpet.
Like-
That's a jazz instrument, right? I don't know jazz
I think
well.
so.
I think yeah.
So do I.
So
The
Yeah.
guy doing a jazz solo.
Yeah,
He's
the-
jazzing.
the main one who's doing the solo, yeah. And so they have
No for a drink.
yeah, they talk about various stuff, and then
Auditions.
yeah, and talk about famous musicians and stuff, and then he quizzes him on like a music. He's like
Someone.
this. I don't know if this person they're talking about is real or not. Miles Davis is
Yeah, I believe that's a real person.
Yeah,
Because I think they also they reference him in Whiplash. I believe they're talking about his.
yes.
I mean,
yes,
yeah.
and I think they also referenced Charlie Parker as well, who was also mentioned in Whiplash.
Yeah, that's
yeah.
that's the reference. I believe.
Yeah,
But this guy's got a Wikipedia page,
Yeah.
so I assume he's real.
yeah.
That's
I'm looking at
absolutely
him now.
right,
It says
yeah.
he is an American trumpeter, bandleader, and composer. He is among the most influential and
Yeah.
acclaimed figures in the history of jazz and 20th century music. So he's a big deal.
Yeah, there you go. There's the basically the line that Tom Cruise says later on. Dropped
Yeah.
out of Juilliard.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So I really like the guy playing this
yeah.
mission. I think he's really
Same.
good for
Oh,
the
guy
one
that
scene he's
is
in.
Killed. Yeah.
I really like him.
Mm.
I think he's one of my favorites.
Yeah. And so
One of the smaller roles.
yeah. And so this guy is also Daniel, as it says here, is also the next target, Vincent's next target. And
Yeah.
he seemingly gives a correct answer, but doesn't, and is killed on a I mean, he's technically right, but he's also technically he's half right.
He did learn stuff at Juilliard, but he didn't
he
learn to
didn't-
become the musician
yeah,
that he is.
He was
at
mentored
Juilliard.
by
Yeah.
Charlie Parker, who was not at Juilliard, and so he dropped out. And then they get back to the cab, and we learn that Max's mother is in hospital. And so
Yeah.
they go to
You got to go visit her.
and at this point, Mark Ruffalo and Tom Cruise meet
Cross paths. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
briefly. And and that's the thing I like, where you have two characters meet, a main character, two characters meeting. The note I made here was,
Without knowing who each other is.
yeah, I always like scenes where two characters meet who are opposed to each other, but they don't know each other yet. They will become enemies later, but they just don't know it yet.
Yeah.
And that's something I just like.
It's a
Like
trope that I always love.
Yeah.
It's like they do that in Die Hard, don't they, with Hans Gruber?
Yeah, that's that was the example I was thinking of,
Yeah.
where Hans Gruber comes face to face with John McClane, and
Yeah.
But
McClane doesn't know who he is. Yeah.
yeah, but he does. I mean, he does give him an empty gun, but he doesn't know that. He just wants to make sure that he is, who he says he is.
Oh please, God, no! One of them.
I made a note, and I'm just wondering if you guys could help me. I've just made a note. It's 2 words. Mark Ruffalo says the words "mezo mezo," MEZZO, when he goes in the elevator. Do you guys not?
I don't know what that means. No.
I'm gonna try seeing if I could find it now, because it's got to mean something.
Is that after Tom Cruise asks him how his night's going?
Oh, I don't.
I've looked it up, and an Italian. I've looked up the word mezzo in English, and it's an Italian word meaning middle.
Yeah,
I
it says-
assume it's kind of a way of saying, it's all right,
Yeah, it says half, middle, or medium. I assume that
It's like,
must be what it.
I assume that's meant to be like, how's your night going? He's like, it's all right,
Yeah, and he doesn't ask Tom Cruise how he's doing.
Oh,
just
what
so
a
rude.
dickhead!
I know. I always do that, even with just strangers. They ask me how I'm doing.
Always
them
ask
they're
how
doing.
their day's going.
Yeah, because that's just a polite thing to do.
Yeah.
And he doesn't even know he's the guy he's after yet. That's...
And Tom Cruise held the lift open for him.
I know. Like, he was like, oh, wait up a second. And he held the lift open. And it's like, you know. Because...
What floor he wants? Yeah, I'm grateful.
Because, like... Because even though Vincent is essentially the bad guy, he still has, like, manners. And he's still, like... Like, if he wasn't...
He's very polite.
If you didn't know he was a killer, he would just seem like a cool guy you could just go out for a drink with.
Go get a pint with him, yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, the fact that you know he's a killer changes that. But at this point...
It's that bit, but
if you don't know that, he just seems like a very polite guy. Who's very well dressed.
Nice guy.
Yeah, exactly. Holds the door open for people. Yeah. Very slicked, you know, very... Like, because Tom Cruise's hair is always just like... Not on everything, of course, but it's like very like high and like slicked back somewhat. And then
his best hair usually like
very, very nicely shampooed.
Yeah, he does have nice.
So then they go to meet Max's mother.
Another really nice scene of because Max has been lying to his mother.
Yeah, I like
about
that.
What he does. And to be fair, like I don't like lying because I just feel bad. But I could see where Max is coming from. That like he hasn't really accomplished much.
I think in 12 years.
Exactly, it's 12 years, and there's a really great sort of I'll get to it when like I'll talk about it. I don't know if we talked about if it's happened yet. I'm just gonna. So it's the scene where they're talking about. Where Vincent is talking to Max about how he doesn't chase his dreams or anything, and he's sort of going to be in this thing forever if he doesn't do something about it. Is that before this scene, or is that?
I think it's after this.
It's after this. Okay, I'll talk about it more then because it's one of my favorite bits. But we'll get to that in a minute. And so they talking. And also,
I was looking at my notes here, and I've got that. One of my notes, Vincent would be a guy that like justifies doing something for your parents because your mother carried you in her womb for 9 months. He does seem like that sort of guy.
Yeah, he does. He really does. He's so like technical about things and so like
virtuous, but he's also a cold-blooded killer.
Yeah. He gets her flowers too. Like he keeps doing. It's so weird because he's like he's killing these people. But he also is just doing a lot of other nice things for people that gives him depth. He's not just this killer.
I mean, that's classic psychopath stuff as far as I know about psychopaths. Yeah. They're very polite. Or is it sociopath? One of the two. They're very polite outward people, but they're capable of doing,
exactly.
things.
I always get the two mixed up, so yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's because it would be so easy for them to just write him as like this cold, blooded killer, but they don't. They give like he's got the two sides. He's got the very polite, sort of.
It's the way he presents himself and the way and who he actually is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's really interesting how because he just sort of keeps prodding at Max's mother about what he does.
I love the moment where she's like, "Oh, you're Las Vegas." Talking about all of these things, and Jamie Foxx is like, "Okay, it's time to go." And Tom goes, "No, let's continue, keep talking."
And because to her, because she doesn't know anything about this, but it's so easy. Like, oh, she could just assume he's being polite, and he's just interested. He's this new friend of Max, and he wants to know more about his mom. And it feels like how there's so much of this where like. Because of the context of what we know, we understand that it's a very tumultuous relationship. But the way Tom Cruise acts and plays it, you could just see, like, to the outside people who don't know this, they could just see it as a new person that Max is, like, hanging with for this period of time.
A mate,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that's really good that it shows that sort of thing. That
my next note is incredibly important.
Oh, all right.
Sorry, if you want.
Yeah, that's all good.
It's going to seem very anticlimactic now. At 52 minutes and 20. 52 minutes, 28 seconds, we get the first Tom Cruise run of the film.
That is a note I made. I said Tom Cruise seems to run in every movie of his.
It's his trademark.
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically, Max is talking to, Vincent's talking to Max's mother. Psychopath, he's seen him kill a lot of people tonight. So in Max's mind, the clear, logical thing to do is steal the guy's briefcase and throw it onto the highway.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, to be fair, I don't think that was always going to be his plan. I think he just was going to run away with it.
Just going to run, but by that point, he was kind of closing on it.
But he was too close that I was like, I got to get rid of it. By the way...
I don't know why he would do that.
Yeah. It's really weird because, like... But I think...
He knows where your mother is.
Yeah,
You've seen him kill a lot of people tonight.
Yeah.
Do you think this is going to go well?
I can sort of see at that moment, like, because he knows he won't be killed because he is important to Vincent. Like, Vincent needs him to complete this. But he could, kill his mum or other people.
Exactly.
And I just noticed that, like, I don't know, just something about the way Tom Cruise runs. Because his arms like swing up in the as he's running,
he's an arm runner. He's an arm runner.
His arms just are swinging up in the air.
He uses every part of his body to run.
Yeah, and it doesn't look. Sorry, George.
It is like his own unique style.
Yeah.
Hey, you show me a silhouette of that run, I know exactly who.
Yeah, but it doesn't look silly either. Like, well, to me anyway, I don't think it. It just he just has a way of running that is just a bit different from.
It's only become become funny to me because it's the Tom Cruise run.
Yeah, I can see that. Like, it's just he's the only person who runs like this. Like, no one else has ever done this before. It's just how he is. And so, yeah, and I think that sort of, I don't know, something about the way, because Max gets the head start. He picks it back and he starts running while Vincent is talking to his mum. And I think it's kind of fair because I feel like if Vincent starts running as soon as he sees Max leave, he would catch him instantly. But because he's got the head start, he's able to get to the bridge, and it makes sense that that it takes him so long to catch him because he's got a bit of a head start on him.
So he'd be screwed if Tom Cruise was like, "Whoa, where are you going?" straight away.
Yeah, exactly. Then he'd be like, "Oh, yeah." But to be fair, Vincent is just
of every Tom Cruise film based on his running.
Does he run in all of them?
Runs a lot.
Yeah, but is he running?
I've definitely seen a video like every Tom Cruise run.
I'm trying to. Is there any running of? Does he run at all in Rain Man?
That's the only one. He does run a little bit in Rain Man. I think there's a bit where Raymond's like burning something and he like runs in from the other room.
That wouldn't be very high though. The ranking.
It's not the Tom Cruise run, but he certainly runs.
But he does run.
I'd say the best Tom Cruise run is in Mission Impossible 3, when it's like just a minute-long shot of him just
running.
Yeah. Is that the one where Is it that the part where he gets slammed into the car by like the?
That's the same movie, but different.
You're talking about a different scene. I haven't seen it, but I just know there's a scene where he gets slammed into a car by a missile.
That is that movie, yeah.
Oh, that is that film, but different. But
yeah. So, yeah. So, Max throws the briefcase onto the highway, but that's gonna be weird because someone eventually is probably gonna grab something and be like, very confused. And
who the hell is Annie? What's her name?
Yeah.
I feel bad. Like whoever, like, I think it landed on whoever hit the briefcase to start off with must have been like, what the hell was that? Like,
yeah, exactly.
Just scared them. Like, Jesus, you just hit something on the highway.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Because they're driving at a relatively fast pace, it would probably like create a very.
Max is lucky that he didn't cause a serious accident.
Yeah. Yeah. So then Vincent gets.
They've lost the names and locations or whatever of the other people that he's got to kill. So they've got to go get the information again.
Yeah, from. I forgot the
Javier
character's
Bardem.
name.
Felix.
Felix.
Mm.
Is that Javier Bardem? It doesn't
Yeah.
look.
No,
It doesn't really look like him, if I'm being completely honest.
I know it took me a minute to realize that it was him. Maybe because he doesn't have that god awful haircut from No
Yeah.
Country for Old Men. But
That's just what I associate Javier Bardem with, like that haircut,
either that haircut or him being blonde,
or him being
insightful.
like blonde.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, he is in it. That's really weird. I think maybe because he's also got a beard as well.
Yeah.
And I think that probably. I think I did know that he was in it, and I just forgot about it and just didn't pick up on it. I think I noticed, like. I think I was told when I first saw it that, oh, that's Javier Bardem. Or something. But I just completely forgot about it and didn't notice on this rewatch.
Similarly to my note about Jason Statham at the start.
Yeah.
Here is Javier Bardem, question mark?
Yeah. Oh, this is. This is probably. Sorry? You're saying.
Oh, I was just gonna say this is a very tense scene. I think.
Yeah.
Between the two.
I was about to say we keep interrupting each other. We Alright.
Sorry.
I think this is up there. We'll get on to my favorite scene later, but this is up there for me for one of my favorite scenes in the film, where
I agree. Yeah.
Max has to go undercover as Vincent because Vincent can't, risk going there to employ his cover, which makes sense because Max isn't, this isn't what Max is gonna do, and it's also kind of heavily implied earlier on in the film that he will be killed. Because there's a bit where they're talking about a cab driver, a similar situation where a cab driver went around and they supposedly killed like 5 people and then killed themselves.
Yeah.
And I think that's sort of something that comes up. Like it's sort of a
It did occur to me watching this, will stay to his word and let Max live at the end of all this, or is he going to kill him?
Yeah. And so,
saying this as somebody who isn't an assassin, if I was hiring some guy to drive me around and be an accomplice to all of my evil doings, I wouldn't want him around afterwards.
Yeah, I don't know if he would have. Yeah.
And one of my favorite, I've made 2 notes here, and I think we may have skipped over something slightly. So one is about when they're in the car. And Tom Cruise is talking about his life, like how his dad was and everything, and how it sort of wasn't.
Oh yeah, and he says, "Yeah, I killed my dad" or whatever.
It's really funny too. And then Max is like, "No," and he's like, "I'm kidding." He died of
psych.
What was it? He died. It was like a natural. It was like sort of like a natural thing that could happen to someone.
Yeah.
It was liver disease.
Yeah, liver disease. Yeah.
Okay.
And another one of my favorite bits of dialogue is where Max says he's sorry, and then Vincent is like, "No, you're not."
No, you're not.
And it's like, yeah, well, he's not, because that feels like so. There's something about dialogue like this. I did an episode on Fight Club a while ago, and one of my favorite bits in that film is when they're talking about sort of. I'm gonna try and connect these two. So bear with me. There's a bit where you guys have seen Fight Club, right?
Yeah.
So there's a bit where Edward Norton and Helena Bonham Carter are talking about their at their help groups together, and they're talking about how people in this situation, in this sort of context, are actually listening and not just sort of waiting for their turn to speak. And I really like that lines and dialogue sort of like that of sort of critiquing sort of how people are, how sort of there's things people say, but they don't actually mean it or they don't actually care. They just want to say what they want to say. Something about that kind of dialogue works.
I have a note later on that I related to Fight Club, but we'll get there when we.
Oh, okay. Oh, it's not yet? Okay, cool. Something with dialogue like that, sort of critiquing society and people within
I have to get you
it.
to repeat yourself there, Chief, because you were.
Yeah, that cut out for me as well.
Oh, sorry, did that cut out? Sorry. I said that I'm a fan of dialogue that sort of critiques society and sort of societal norms and like things that people say, like because a lot of like because people can say these things, but it's not actually genuine.
Yeah, you don't know
Yeah.
if people actually care.
Yeah, like in this,
Call
like
them
he's
out on it.
yeah, like in this situation, like we know he's not sorry. He's just saying it because he feels like he has to. And I think some people,
Yeah, exactly.
I sort of feel that that's sort of a thing that people sort of like. You don't need to always say something. You don't always need to give your opinion about something. You know.
Sometimes it's best to just shut up.
Yeah. And especially because he knows he doesn't care. Like he just like Vincent knows that Max does not care.
Another actor that I kind of noticed just in the background.
Mhm.
Have you guys seen Breaking Bad? One of the
Yes,
twins.
I haven't.
Like
Oh, the two twins in season 3. Yeah,
3. Yeah, one of them is in this film.
I feel like
They weren't both there. One of them was.
Yeah, I feel like I feel like I might have noticed. I just didn't make a note. I feel like sometimes I notice things, but I don't always note them down, so I forget them. But I feel like, I mean, maybe I did. I'll have to go back and look at it again. This is in the scene where Max is pretending to be Vincent.
He's one of he's one of
the
Felix's
henchmen.
eyes.
Oh, that's another great moment where Max is talking, and he says something like, "And I would appreciate it if you told your guy to stop pointing a gun at me," or something like that. Which this film does a really great job.
My favorite moment, or one of my favorite moments from this scene was where Max just goes like, you know what, I'm going to give you a discount, 25% off. You know what? No, 35.
Yeah.
Screwing Vincent over.
Yeah, it's so good. And I love that this film shows that he grows and like Vincent is inadvertently teaching him all these things, you know, these things to notice, these things to talk about, all these various stuff, and it's like, yeah,
you know, it is kind of like Fight Club. He's kind of teaching him to kind of, you know, take control a bit more. And
I mean, it is different in that he is making him a better person, and in Fight Club, you could argue that he's not. Like, it's two different.
Oh yeah, Fight Club is definitely.
Yeah, like it's the same sort of like thing, but sort of in opposite
it's the same
directions.
principle, but different.
It goes two different directions, one to the bad and one to the good.
So after this is that they go to the police are like tracking them.
Yeah.
And then they go to that nightclub.
Yeah.
Next.
There's a bit of dialogue that I want to bring up. And I don't know when because we're jumping around a bit because I don't remember exactly where everything is. So it's a bit where Vincent is talking to Max about his dreams, and so I'm just gonna quote some of it right now. Someday my dream will come. One night you'll wake up and you'll discover it never happened. And he just sort of talks about how, you know, it's all on you and how you need to make these dreams come true, and you won't, and you'll just get old, and you know, and he talks about this whole thing, and then he actually, earlier in the film, he also notices that Max has a girl's number as well, but he doesn't know that it's the girl he needs to kill. And he makes a point that like that girl that like he can't even call her because he asks him if he'll call her and he says maybe, and it's just like, you know, like sometimes you just need to go for it, and Vincent is really trying to help Max go for it, you know. I mean, if he even if he does plan on killing him later, he's trying to teach him something. I mean, again, it's up to interpretation if he'll kill him or not, though, because it's sort of never really.
It's like the exchanges like this make me think he doesn't want to kill him at the end.
Yeah.
Part of me does think that, you know, it's possible, but I don't think he will kill it. I don't think he'd waste his time, you know, viewing this much knowledge on him if he
exactly. I feel like because he's telling him so much and he's teaching him so much that's like, you don't just do this for someone you're gonna kill in like a couple hours. Like Because
Yeah.
it seems like sort of because it seems like genuine advice he's giving him. He's not just
They seem to genuinely care about.
yeah, and he's trying to help him, albeit in a slightly insulting like because he's kind of blunt and a bit and very harsh at times in regards to
Kind of pointing out everything he's doing wrong.
yeah,
Yeah.
but that in turn helps him, and a bit that
You got to help people by kind of telling them what they don't want to hear.
yeah, exactly. And it's a good point. And one bit I like is when Max comes out with like he's got the things ready for Vincent, and Vincent seems like genuinely appreciative that like Max was able to do that for him and to help him. Like it seems like very
Yeah.
like it feels genuine. Like nothing in this feels like nothing between them feels fake. It feels like genuine people, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And of course, it like depends, of course, because at times they are at odds, but other times they are like helping each other and sort of lean off each other, I guess you could say.
You know.
Sorry.
No, I do agree with you.
Yeah. The police they've found they've seen the footage and they think that Max is Vincent, but except for Mark Ruffalo or Fanning, who doesn't believe that, and so they both head there to find Max, but to do very different things. One
Yeah.
group of people is to kill him, and the other is to rescue him. And then,
I think, honestly, I think that could have been. I would have liked to have seen a bit more. The debate. I don't think that was quite to its full potential.
yeah, I can sort of see that. I sort of there is a couple times where it's like it could be going like a little like more could happen with this.
Yeah.
But I think because it kind of isn't massively necessary to the overall because it doesn't really affect much of the plot.
Yeah, no, yeah, you're right.
So, but if there, I wouldn't have a problem if there was more to it if they fleshed it out more. So we've got the nightclub scene. I made a note that the nightclub scene is up there for like one of my favorite scenes just ever from like I've seen in a film. Honestly, I think
I'd say it's for sure my favorite scene in this film.
yeah, it's probably it's up there for one of the best scenes in the film for sure.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny you say that because it was around this point that I kind of started to lose concentration a bit. And I got reined back in.
Oh, really?
Oh,
Yeah, I don't know what it was about this, but
like so the scene lost you, or was it like stuff leading up to it that lost you?
I actually no, I think it was kind of little bit before the scene. Actually, I think it was kind of a window, and then this is kind of what brought me back in a little bit.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think most people who have seen this like admit that the nightclub scene's pretty great and one of the best scenes of the film. I definitely would put it as one of the best of the film for sure.
Yeah.
So
It's up there, but it's not. I think my favorite's probably from a little bit earlier.
and I think we're gonna end up with different scenes because I think my favorite scene is later on. So I think we're all gonna have different opinions on what's the best scene.
Or we can wrap that when we
Yeah.
to the end.
So
Yeah.
I like how because it's very like claustrophobic and sort of like because there's so many people and they're just like bumping into each other and like because there's people like all dancing together and Vincent is like pushing people past and moving his way through and he kills someone.
It's very.
Hello,
Hello.
George. You cut out there for me. I didn't quite catch what you said.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I can hear you now. That might have just been me.
All I'll say is
You
all
cut
I
out for
all I
me as
said was
well.
I just quite like fuck.
I like how. Sorry, George, you did cut out again for me. I don't know why it's cutting out, but okay. I hopefully it will turn up properly in the recording. So, are you guys there?
Yes,
Okay.
I'm here.
All right. I'll just. So, I think this is a really good scene. It's quite. It's very frantic editing.
Yeah, and I did take note of the editing. I think this was like the other Oscar this one got was for editing.
Yeah.
That's very.
Which is fair enough because it's really like because they edit because a lot of the editing could have kind of like very. I don't use basic because that seems kind of like insulting, but it's very like. It's not trying to be too fancy with it. It's just sort of what works for which scene, and this scene is...
At times, I feel like this was edited as if it was for like YouTube, like film, like a YouTube video.
Yeah,
2012.
yeah, and then the.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes, sorry,
Yes.
George. We just we just kept going because for those listening,
No, I was able to hear you.
you couldn't.
My Wi-Fi just took.
Yeah.
My Wi-Fi shit itself. So
That's all good. For the listeners, George's Wi-Fi was just cutting out. It should be all good now. Just a disclaimer.
it should be. Yeah.
Lost him for a second there.
Yeah, but don't worry, we were able to keep it going. Okay, you sound good now, George. You're not cutting out anything.
That's good.
So, yeah, I thought it was one bit that I think because it becomes like total mayhem in the nightclub. Very like I don't know.
It's kind of developed very quickly.
Yeah, well, because Tom Cruise like he grabs a guy, like breaks his neck, and then like stamps on him or something. Like,
But yeah, something like that.
and he just like continues on, but I think it sort of works in the sense of like because it sort of goes back to the point earlier that he made that there's like 6 million people or whatever and nobody knows each other, so he could probably get away with this because people would just be like, because they like because there's so many people that like you wouldn't even be able to recognize him or remember him, and I think that's sort of like because this could only work in certain places. I feel.
I was gonna say if there were only a couple of people, they wouldn't get with it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, the fact that there's a lot of people there.
Yeah, and it sort of it goes back to the whole thing of sorry, it goes back to the whole thing of like
The guy dying on the
guy
train
dying on the
MTA,
yeah. But this is even more frantic and crazy because it's like a nightclub where there's like so many people.
That story, like, people don't notice just because nothing's happening, whereas this, people don't happen because everything's happening.
Yeah, exactly. And it would be too frantic, and like if I was in this situation, I feel like I would just get shot. I'd be hitting the crossfire, honestly, if I was in this situation.
Just down.
Yeah. Because it's sort of... Well, I definitely trip over someone. Because everyone is just moving so fast that, like...
Yeah, I feel like I trip over and, like, on it.
Yeah. And there's a bit I noticed, because I rewatched the scene, because it's really good. And there's a bit where someone's, like, about to... I think they're about... Like, one of the police officers is about to kill Max, and then Vincent, like, saves him. If that was am I remembering that correctly?
Yeah, I vaguely remember that.
Yeah, and it's like again, he needs him, like, because he's important to him because he can get the places fast. He knows what he's doing. He's doing all this stuff, and he needs this guy to be alive because he's still got
And
one.
he does kind of care about him, and like we
Yeah.
say, so
In a very sort of dark, sort of like
darkly kind of
yeah,
nice way, I guess,
yeah, and so
disturbing.
yeah, and so he kills this fourth person, and then I love how he shoots like this guy's like all his guards,
Shoots all of Felix's
or
men.
shoots all of Felix's men. Then he just walks up, shoots the guy, like does his shot, just turns around and just walks away, putting like the gun back in his belt or something. Like he's just so casual about the whole thing too, because he knows people probably won't remember him, and they won't because they'll just be too freaked out. They'll just be like, oh, there was guns and there was all this, but they won't sort of be able to connect the face to
Things so insane and off the wall, but they probably won't remember his face. That won't be the detail that sticks with them.
Yeah. And so, and amongst
Fanning,
all this chaos,
and
Fanning finds Max and takes him,
tries to get him out,
but before he is shot.
Then Fanning gets.
I thought that he would be like a major part of like the ending, like something would happen.
Same.
No, he's not, like, because this he's not, like, 'cause the third act is like arguably after they leave the nightclub. That's like the third act. That's the
third act. Yeah,
that is the story. And I thought he would be like a major part of that. Like it'd be like, he'd be able to rescue Max.
He's stuck in. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you think that he'd save Max, and
then and Vincent
in a couple of words, he doesn't.
He doesn't. Yeah, he just walks out, immediately gets shot.
He like gets Max. 5 seconds later, Vincent puts some bullets in him.
Yeah, and then he's just done, and
it's like, oh right, he's gone. Cool.
Yeah.
And I do really like.
Sorry, George, you all right?
Yeah, I just had to go do something. I'm back now, though.
That's all good.
Yeah.
That's why George was very quiet for a good couple minutes, but that's fine.
He was gone.
Yeah.
He just didn't acknowledge it.
We were able to keep things going. We did skip over we did get through the nightclubs. Is there anything you want to talk about in the nightclub scene, George, before we continue on?
I'm sure you covered nothing in particular. I'm sure you guys covered it, so
I think we covered most of it, yeah.
Yeah, let's move on then.
Then we get to the bit where
they're back in the car now.
They're back in the car driving to the fifth spot, the final place, and then Max starts going a bit.
He puts his foot down, he kind of
literally.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And figuratively, of course, but.
But he starts speeding and freaking the hell out of Vincent.
And then Vincent, again, he puts the gun to his head, but Max knows he's not going to shoot him because because in Vincent's mind he's like, okay, hopefully if I point the gun at his head, hopefully he will slow down and everything will get better, and he'll slow the car down and everything will be good. And he just keeps going faster. He's speeding through lights. He's just doing all these things, and it's just
he flips the car over.
He flips the car, which that's the thing I also really like, when just a movie just has like a car flipping or crashing into something and it flips over.
Yeah, like Fight Club.
Yeah, like Fight Club. Yeah, I mean, again,
it was. It was kind of from this point I got a big Fight Club vibes, particularly. A few minutes from now.
Yeah.
So Vincent, he's out of there.
Yeah, he gets out because he knows who it is. He saw her earlier and he's like, oh cool, I know where she is, and he heads there immediately.
Yeah.
But
she is where to find her.
At this point, Max doesn't know. And so he gets out of the car. A police officer comes over and sees the dead body in the back of the car.
And quite reasonably is like, okay, better arrest this dude.
I'm going to be honest, though. I don't know how realistic this is because it's a police officer arresting a black person.
Like a man.
Like I'm like, I think this
And a
goes a
dead
tad
guy, yeah.
differently, like just a tad differently. If I'm being honest, but it's a anyway.
If Max was slightly more aggressive, then
Yeah, slightly.
Yeah.
film might have ended.
Yeah. And then, so he notices that he sees Vincent's thing. He knows who she is, and because he knows where she is as well, because he drops her off and everything, and so he is able to get
Annie, the girl from the start.
yeah from the beginning of the film, because also you've sort of forgotten about her at this point too, because she's sort of at the very beginning and the end, and that's it. She's the middle plot, the middle, like a hot massive chunk of the film is just she's not in it.
Yeah, she's at the start, and then she's gone until Act 3 begins.
Yeah, because she's not important. Like we don't need to see.
Yeah, exactly.
Stuff.
But yeah, there's no reason for us to cut back to her.
Yeah, until she becomes relevant again, which is a problem that some films can face. They just have to keep showing characters even if they're not necessary,
But yeah, just to remind you that they're there.
Yeah,
and yeah, I mean, I feel like this film does do that with Fanning. I don't particularly, care for him, but I guess maybe it's not reminding you that he's there as much as it is showing you how he gets to the point where he does kind of become a bit more important.
Yeah. So Max gets the gun, ties the police officer, and just starts running.
This is when it went. This is just when it went full Fight Club. He's running. He's escaped the police. He's running with a gun.
I mean,
shooting the glass door
he
at the bottom of the building.
Fight Club. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Shooting through the glass door at the bottom of the building.
I like how he grabs the bin and tries to like throw it through, and it just bounces off, and he's just like, oh.
Yeah.
Because like I have to assume that glass is probably pretty strong. Like it's not like he's also not a strong guy. Like he doesn't look physically like he's a strong. Like he looks just like a scrawny guy. So it would.
I don't think you'd really build up that much muscle
to throw like a metal a metal bin into a window to create enough damage to break through it. Isn't it? But slightly earlier, he calls her.
He's talking to her and he's like looking up at her building while she's on the phone.
And they're talking, and then Vincent, he's gotten into the building and is searching through her office. And it's a classic thing that a lot of films do where you think like the villain's about to find the main character, but they go into like a different room or something. Like it's a thing that happens a lot in movies. And in this time, it really works because it's like, oh, you can sort of like the tension is building, and you're like, oh, it's about to happen.
I think what makes this scene work is that Max isn't in any position to help other than just tell her where he is.
Exactly, and that like
he sees her eyes.
Yeah, a sense of hopelessness, you could say.
The fact that like if Vincent does find the room that she's in, he can't do anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not gonna like he enters her room with a gun and he's gonna be there on the phone going like, okay, yeah, so he's just entered your room. Look out.
Yeah. Oh, he's going that direction. He's turned left.
He's got a gun in your face. If I were you, I'd be a bit scared right now.
Yeah. Just a bit scared. But he does know she's up there because her phone is showing the like where the phone.
What room where she's taking the call.
And so he looks up, and so now he knows. And Max is like, ugh. And he...
Gotta go fast.
And then at this point, he runs towards the building.
Yeah.
And Vincent...
This whole sequence is really tense, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I would put this, like, sort of as a whole, one of my favorite, like, a really great third act to a film. Like, one of...
It is. Yeah.
Because I sort of... When I was getting into film and stuff, and I'm better at it now of like telling where like each of the acts are. Like this is when the second act begins, this is where the third act begins, and like it sort of depend. Like occasionally, it can sort of depend on like when you think it starts. Some occasionally, but like this third act, this like final, however like 30 minutes or so, give or take, is like
35-ish, I'd say.
Yeah.
Half an hour to 40 minutes.
Yeah, is like really, really good stuff. Seeing, just and the performances from all of them as well work really well. Like, because
I love that. I'll he's trying to kill them and stuff.
Mm.
Cruz, Vincent, he's still just trying to be as polite as he can.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. Like he's got like even as like a killer, he still has standards, and he's not.
he's kind of like he's still like, hey, Max, could you not like get in the way? Because I don't really want to kill you, but
Yeah, exactly.
you're making it awful difficult to love you right now.
Yeah. Yeah, and so he cuts the power, and she starts. Well, she has to hide because she knows someone's coming to get her, and then it basically gets to the point where there's a gun pointed at her, and then Max is there, and just shoots Tom Cruise, like right
Again,
across.
it goes Fight Club.
It's
She
Fight
like
Club.
shoots him through like
the
in the cheek
and
or
like
thereabouts.
the ear. Yeah,
Yeah.
and like, man, that must really hurt.
I say that's good. I don't know what it's like to be hit with a bullet, but
Yeah.
particularly in like the head area, that's gonna sting.
It's gotta really stick. So I
Yeah.
feel like the ears are like a part that like when it gets hurt, it hurts more than like other places
It hurts.
do.
Yeah, the sensitive
Yeah, it
spot.
does.
Sensitive places.
Because the ear is just kind of just skin and flesh.
And it's also gotta like kind of mess up his hip because like guns are loud. And
Oh
I
yeah,
have to
no, that's
assume-
gonna.
That's
Yeah.
something I think they do a good job of in this film, like showing how loud the guns are. They sound properly loud, which I don't.
Yeah,
think they
like
do
when
in
he
a
when he
lot.
shoots those guys in the alley, that
Yeah,
the homies that
it's sort of-
stole his briefcase.
Yeah, it's very loud and sort of you can hear it sort of echoing somewhat
Echoing, yeah.
Yeah.
because it's
good
so
sound design.
quiet.
The actual sound of the bullet is a real kind of sharp gunshot noise, and then the echoing.
Yeah.
Mm.
It's a nice sound design.
Yeah, the really good sound design for just sort of, which I think is an important part. Like sound design needs to be
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, yeah.
really.
If like you need to have good like consistent I think background noise. Otherwise, if there's just no noise, then it's
Yeah.
very filmy and like people are talking and there's just nothing natural.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I made a note because I think we were talking about cinematography earlier and shots or we were talking about editing, I guess, and how it was basic, and how you can sort of go that with framing and the cinematography for some of it is sort of it's like not trying to be fancy, it's trying to be work, like this. It's not going to be more than it is,
Yeah.
One shot I really like is when Vincent is in Annie's office and the camera like sort of doesn't move past him, it sort of makes him out of focus and makes Max in focus, like the focus, so it sort of goes past his shoulder. Like that sort of stuff is like really, like it's very simple, but it is really effective and really works quite well.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then the shooting kicks off. Annie and Max are running away, and the bit that I mentioned before that jumped out at me as being a bit kind of like a weird sort of almost stunt. Vincent throws a chair through a window. Then he's gonna run through it, like where he just smashed the window, and he like accidentally kind of steps on the chair and falls over it.
Oh, I thought you were gonna talk about something else, but also, no, that really is like, well, because at this point he's sort of, I guess you could say, kind of desperate.
It's a desperate scramble by this point.
because he's trying to get them because like the train station is like so close. And I made something here that said I pretty much stopped making notes as soon as Max shoots Vincent for the first time in like the ear. I just was sort of taken in and enamored by the film that I like my notes.
Yeah, like I didn't make
point.
any notes until like the very end. I just wrote chair for this bit just to remind myself.
Yeah, and because it feels, again, because it seems like that could happen. Like you could, because he's moving so fast and everything that he.
So smash window, and as when glass cracks, it's a lot harder to see through. So it's fairly likely that he won't be able to see where he can put his feet, and he just steps on the chair by mistake and falls over.
Yeah, exactly. It's really good though. And
then they get down to the train station.
Yeah, and this is a bit that kind of confuses me a tad. Of like, I don't know, the way it's edited and shot, because they go down the stairs.
Go down the lift, and Vincent goes down the stairs.
Yeah.
Oh, is that what it?
Was it?
I don't know. Something that
Actually, no, they might have gone down the stairs. I don't
I think they went down the stairs. I thought he doesn't go down the stairs, but somehow gets to the train there. I don't know. Maybe there's something I missed, but like that's just sort of something I noticed. That didn't dampen my enjoyment. It's just something that I noticed and thought that's a bit interesting. I don't know if there was a specific. If there's something I just wasn't getting, I guess.
I really like the bit where Max and Annie, they get to the bottom of they get to the ground floor and they're gonna run out the main the front door of the building,
Yeah.
and Max, oh no, go this way. He won't expect that, and then
Yeah,
I feel like Vincent's kind of killer instinct is like, this is what they want me to think, so he goes the way that they go.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
It
yeah,
isn't just like it isn't just like he instinctively goes the same way they went. He almost goes out the front door and then he thinks.
Yeah. I thought you were going to mention when you talk about stunts was the bit where he like jumps across like the train line, like he runs.
Oh, that bit.
And jumps over.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which again,
But yeah, that was
impressive. It's a very
was that
big jump.
still Tom Cruise at that point?
I would assume. I mean, he does most of his own stunts for.
He was actually. I was going to say he was still into doing his own stunts at this point, like Mission Impossible.
Yeah,
the first one.
The first one.
It's that bit where the window smashes and he's like.
He would have done by this point as well, at least.
Maybe.
Yeah.
So yeah, he was kind of knee deep into doing his own stunts.
I think he done like Last Samurai before this as well, which is like.
That was before this, yeah.
Yeah. So I assume he probably did that. So they're on the train, and we get down to like a really great final confrontation between the characters. And I like how he just walks through the train, like he just pushing
for
doors
them.
open. Yeah, and his face is just like sort of sad, like it doesn't change at all. It's just like he's like determination, and he's just pushing through. He doesn't care anymore. He's just making.
I think he's just kind of annoyed. He's like, "Oh, God's sake!"
Yeah,
killed him at this point. It's been a long night. Jeez.
Yeah. There's a bit when he gets on the train. He's at like the end of it, and he goes to like the back door, and I don't.
Yeah.
That doesn't really work in some places, like. Because for me, because in Australia, we don't have it like that. We've sort of
that's where the driver would be.
Yeah, because the driver's at like both ends, so that doesn't work.
Yeah,
but,
there's not a door at both ends, like on the back and front.
It's just like the window that they see.
Window, yeah.
And, like the controls, like it doesn't really work like that. But I mean, it is America. It is different. Like they have different ways of doing things. So. It makes sense, and then they're on the train.
They're just going from one end of the train to the other while
they're just
being
going
chased.
through all the... And then they stop, and they plan to get off, but Vincent is just like waiting there. He steps out onto the train, just like ready to go.
He's got the gun pointed at them.
He's pointed at them because either they stay in the train or they try and get out, and he just shoots them. Like they are stuck. They cannot get out of this situation. And presumably this is going to keep happening at every station, until either, like assuming they don't like if he doesn't move, he just stays there, and he just keeps doing that same thing. Like they cannot get out.
Just basically. Going round and round the loop.
Yeah. Just stopping at every stage.
It's farcical sketch.
Yeah. So then they all get back on the train, and then there's the final shootout. Is like that's the best way to put it. It is a shootout.
I mean, it is a shootout. Yeah, they are shooting.
But it's not like in the traditional sense. Like if I said shootout, you wouldn't assume.
You think fire, duck behind cover and all that while the other person fires. Yeah, they're just firing bullets at each other.
Yeah, they're just shooting with reckless abandon. Like, cause I swear there's a bit earlier where there's like an old woman or something in like cart that Vincent is in.
Yeah, one of the ones he goes through.
And this I mentioned earlier, the shooting pattern that Vincent has throughout the film of the two the sort of three shots, to the chest, one to the head, and how. Because he was so well trained that that was instinctively what he went to, and that's why he fails. Because Max is just like pointing the gun and just shooting randomly. But
Yeah.
Vincent is
Whereas
just
he's
doing the
trying
same
to-
thing.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really nice thing that you don't like. It's not like it's kind of subtle, but it also is like it makes sense that like he does this so often. And there's a bit he says like I'm a professional or something. Again, which is sort of emphasized by the fact that the shots, it's the 2 to the chest, 1 to the head, and that ends up being his downfall.
Yeah. I didn't quite pick up on that when I was watching it.
Yeah. I didn't really notice until after I was like reading stuff about the film and people were making like said that like this is a thing that happens in the film. And a bit I really love is where he drops the clip where Vincent drops his clip and he reaches to pull his other clip and his hand is just empty and he's just like looking at it and you see like the clip fall and bounce on the train car.
Yeah.
And
then he just sits down.
Yeah. I think it said something in the script that like at this point he knows it's over because of like where he's been hit. It's sort of like cut off like all sort of normal like human like motions and sort of nerves and all that. So at this point he's just like, I'm gonna die. Like everything's been cut off. I'm not gonna get to a hospital or anything. Like
It's just the ultimate fuck it, man.
I've lost. And so he just drops the gun and just sits down and he just stares out of the window.
And goes on and quotes that spiel about a dude on a train.
Yeah. And I think like it, because we mentioned that it was established earlier, but it doesn't feel contrived or like you're not just like this is obviously gonna get called back to later. It's gonna be like it sort of just feels like natural dialogue. And when he when he references it again, it's like, that's right, he did say that. And you do sort of wonder, like, how long will it take for someone to notice that there's a dead guy here?
A dead dude, yeah.
And then it's not like a dramatic death. He just like says his line and he just like sort of slumps his head slightly.
Slumps over, yeah.
Yeah.
Dies.
And then that's it. And then Max and Annie, they get off the train and they leave. And the film ends pretty much with them sort of walking
away from this traumatic experience.
Although, to be fair, I do sort of want to know what happens next because he's covered in blood. Like, so surely...
It's not like he was an old man who just died.
Yeah.
Been shot.
Yeah.
From what I know, when you get shot, blood spreads fairly quickly.
No, I mean Max. When he gets off.
Max, right?
Yeah, sorry. Did I?
I thought you meant
Vincent. No, Vincent. No. I know Vincent gets shot, but Max is like, he's got some blood on him, and it's like
he's bloodied a bit, yeah.
So something's gonna happen, right? Like surely.
Surely somebody's like, "You're right, mate."
Yeah.
They've been through.
There's just a dead guy on a train who tried to kill me. Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's wild, dude.
Yeah. I was his
Hate it when
taxi
that
driver
happens.
for tonight. Oh, really? You were driving around a killer?
Los Angeles, am I right?
Yeah. I think that's sort of pretty much the film. Really, I think we've sort of gone through everything, all the major scenes. I think.
I think so. Yeah.
Do you guys have any sort of final things you want to say about the film? Any final thoughts or feelings?
Well, I mean, my last note here is that the green screen main windows looks a bit dodgy.
In the train.
Yeah, and particularly when they're just sitting down and walking and dying.
I need to look at that again because I guess I just wasn't. I think I was just so pulled in by the film that I just sort of didn't notice that, and that happens sometimes.
Yeah,
I'll have to look at
it
again. I'll see if I can find a frame from it because sometimes I just don't notice stuff like that. But yeah.
Well, I do really like this film. I think it has its flaws, but I think it's a thoroughly entertaining of work.
Mm.
Nice, very like well written. I think for this sort of film, they could quite easily have had it be just
Mm.
action stuff.
Yeah.
But I think
Yeah.
there is some genuine stuff to be said.
Yeah.
There's a lot of depth to it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's a
yeah,
film
surprising
that
amount.
on the surface could be so like, oh, it's just this thing, and the characters could be so basic, Vincent could just be this, cold-blooded killer.
Yeah, he could so easily just be like, do what I say, Max, or I'm gonna kill you, that sort of
Yeah,
thing.
and,
He isn't.
but
Yeah.
he's got so much more depth than that, and Max could, just be so easily just sort of be, sort of one end of like either sort of very weak or I guess the opposite end, but he's sort of
I think they
character
could have made the mistake of having him just kind of act a bit too cool.
Yeah, exactly. Especially because
Kills a guy, and he could be there like cracking wise, being like, "Whoa, man, that's crazy," and stuff like that.
And
But
because it's Jamie Foxx as well, you kind of sort of expect that, like, because that's just sort of how he is. But is very much like this is sort of against his type, I guess. And I guess you could
Both
say
of
this.
them are very believable in this.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. And I think you could say that Tom Cruise is playing against type because he's rarely plays bad guys and things. He's usually like
I can't think of another film that he's been a villain in, to be honest.
I mean, does Tropic Thunder
other-
count? I mean,
he's not the villain, but he's like
he
antagonistic.
He
is a villain, I guess.
Yeah, but yeah, the more I think about it, he's like the main hero in like most of what he's done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's nice to see him play as a villain. It's always nice when you see an actor play against type or doing something that's a bit different for them.
I do something that it isn't them.
Yeah. I mean, the only other film I can think of where he plays a kind of villain is Interview with the Vampire, but I'd argue he's more of an anti-hero in that anyway. So.
Yeah, that's the one everyone keeps bringing up. Of like, besides Collateral, what else is like? Has he done anything as a villain? And they sort of, it's always like, yeah, he's kind of a villain, but he's kind of not. It's always like sort of depends, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, do we want to put a rating on it?
Sure. George, you want to go?
Yeah. So we're just giving our ratings for it.
Yeah, and any final thoughts as well that you would like to give.
Yeah, I really, really like this film. I think it's very sort of stylishly shot and like the sound design and everything's really well done. And yeah, I just think it's a very tight thriller. It's only like 2 hours, so it never gets. And the pacing's really great in it.
This could be something that could go on too long, and you sort of get bored.
So, yeah, I give this a 10 out of 10 if we're doing ratings. My second favorite Tom Cruise film.
What's number one?
Mission Impossible Fallout.
Okay. Oh yeah, I also really like this film. Probably not to that extent. Although I do love a lot of what it's doing. I think some of the little diversions and goes on with the flow and stuff do kind of drag it a little bit, and there is that point where I do kind of lose interest a bit, but and it reins it back in extremely quickly. It's a really great, I think it sags in the middle, but everything on either side of that I do really. So I'm gonna go 9.
Ooh, I honestly thought you might go lower.
That's
honestly,
higher than I was expecting.
Yeah, I thought you would have been like an 8, like a 7 or an 8, but that's really high. But I don't. That's fine. I just sort of thought.
No, I do really like this film.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna echo George's sentiments. This is a film that I just really like. It's got 2 really great leading performances from Tom Cruise and Jamie Foxx. All the other supporting players play their parts well. Yeah. They're just really good, really enjoyable stuff. It's very basically, for most of the time, it's the editing and cinematography and all that is very basic, but it doesn't need to be fancy. It just works for what it is, And yeah, the third act is probably up there for me for one of my favorite third acts. If I was to give like a opinion on favorite third acts, it would probably be up there as one of my favorites.
It'd be up there for me too. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I wouldn't quite go that far.
so I also am giving this a 10 out of 10. And prior to this was in my 100 favorite films of all time. So before this, I had it as, I believe, my 19th favorite film. And on this rewatch, it is now jumped up to my 4th.
Oh,
favorite,
ow.
which is
quite
high, I understand.
Yeah.
If we're gonna get into the nitty gritty like that, I keep a list of every film that I rated.
And how many films are on that
Least
list?
favorite.
Just for
1074.
Jesus Christ. So it is.
It's a big one. I've been keeping it for quite a few, quite a while at this point.
Yeah.
So Collateral comes in at this is gonna sound really low compared to yours. Got at 120, like a little more than what we do in the Shadows, but not quite as much as Spider-Man 2.
Oh. Oh, that's great. That's so good. That's quite high though for like over 1,000 films.
Oh yeah, this is definitely in the the top quarter of films.
Absolutely.
I don't keep nearly as big a list as you guys have. I just have a top 50. It is 26.
26
on mine.
That's still pretty.
Slightly.
I mean, that's slightly.
It's
just
very respectable.
Yeah.
Interstellar, but slightly better than Before Sunrise.
You were cutting out slightly. I caught bits of that.
Got Before Sunrise.
Before Sunrise, and then.
Sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yeah, I can. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Sorry. My Wi-Fi's messing up again. I just said it's slightly worse than Interstellar, slightly better than Before Sunrise.
Okay.
Yeah.
Really good.
Yeah. So I think we're pretty much done for all this. Do you guys have any final things you'd like to say, or should I just wrap this up now?
I reckon I've said my piece on Collateral.
Yeah.
Great film.
I'd like to have you guys back again in the future for another.
Yeah, it's been fun.
I'd love to be back.
Yeah. So, So thank you for listening to this one. This is a very long one, but it's usually with like more than one guest we go for ages. So, yeah. Thank you for listening and making it to the end of this very long episode.
Congratulations.
Yeah. So check out the website. It's not the greatest, I will admit, but I need to keep working on it and making it look better. And I need to update stuff on it. Check out my Facebook and Instagram page for this. And I think that's pretty much it. Do you guys have anything you would like to plug?
No.
No? Okay.
Yeah, I got nothing.
Yeah, that's fine.
That shows how little we.
Yeah. So that's all. Thank you for listening, and I will see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.
Bye.